Everyone, welcome back to another episode. We're again joined by Kirill Voronin. So yeah, Kirill,
So,
how does it feel to join the Guinness Book of World Records or whatever the fuck it's called? You're the most uh is it common?
yeah, common.
Common guest we had on the podcast. Three times.
What we had Kirill three times?
It's the third time we have him. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, shit, you serious? I always thought
yeah.
it was two.
No, no, this is gonna be the third episode. Yeah.
So, Kirill,
This is
how
a,
does it feel?
I am I am honored I'm honored I'm really honored to, especially considering the fact that no one wants to be a guest on this shit show, so I'm very honored that I'm
First off,
coming to this show every single
first
time.
off, we've already booked like for the next month. We already
Yeah,
have
yeah.
episodes for the next month, man.
With
So
guests.
with guests, yes, yes. Thank
Yes,
you, Omar.
of course.
You know what's so funny, Omar? I actually was thinking about the episodes me and you recorded. I didn't think
Mhm.
about the guests we had.
Ah, okay, yeah, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So,
So, today it's gonna be a special. I don't know if you can call it a comedy episode because wrestling is comedy in a way. Yeah, it has pain and
It's a
tragedy.
staged show. Yeah, it's like it's like watching theatrical play with very bad actors. Like this is what wrestling is.
yeah.
You know what happened to me because like literally for the past like 2 days, yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
yesterday and today, yeah, I've just been watching like stuff about wrestling, just stuff, and I'm like, wait, these guys are really like some of them like really sell what they're doing, you know? And there's someone who said, which is a very nice like phrase which describes wrestling. It is the only, in a way, it's the only ongoing fictional fantasy. No, well, fictional. I don't know what you
Mm.
call drama or whatever. Yeah, that it's ongoing. It keeps on like goes with it. And like we'll talk about the
Yeah.
how it is in this. Oh, Omar, what's your background in wrestling? I don't mean
I
like you wrestle
okay,
your
here,
cousin.
here's the thing. So when I was in like middle school, I had like some of my friends would come over and they were fans of wrestling. So we would just get on my bed and we would wrestle each other. And then so I got into wrestling because of that. And then my grandma would always tell me, "Why do you watch this? It's fake, it's fake." And I was always like, "It's not fake, he's bleeding. How can it be fake?" And then I found out it's fake. And I was like, "Oh, old people know stuff, like
You know, when I remember I had the same reaction when uh well some of my relatives, my sisters were like sadistic to a point.
mm-hmm,
Like you know what they do? They see you happy, they're like, you shouldn't be happy.
mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm,
know? I think they were preparing me for my future ex-girlfriends at that time. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
And they always told me it's fake. And I was like, there's no way this is fake. It's the same Omar. Like I would say, no, look at it. Like there's blood. It's real. He's hitting him with a trash can.
You know what? The most ironic part is when I was obsessed with wrestling, my grandma was obsessed with like Turkish drama series. And
Yeah.
at one point we would talk about them like I would always tell her, "Oh, this is fake." And she's like, "How? She's bleeding. She didn't get pregnant or whatever." Like, and it's basically like the same. What do you call it? Like same arguments for both at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you remember like your first like wrestling, like the thing that you watched about wrestling?
I so there's this guy the back then when I started watching, I'm pretty sure it was old news, but when the people I got into were like Triple H and Shawn Michaels, and I remember there was this one tag team match, I think that's what they call it, yeah, with them both fighting each other.
hmm
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I really like that
It's like when
one.
2-on-2, 3-on-3. That's like a tag team match. Yeah, that's called a tag team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, mine was like very like I had wrestling. I might actually still have them on VHS tapes.
Oof.
We used to record them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't care whose wedding it is. I'm gonna watch this wrestling match 700 times later. You know, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
record over it and watch everything. What about you, Kirill? How did you get into wrestling?
So mine was an interesting one because I had uncle who would go on business trips to Japan and the United States from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and he brought me in. He brought me Nintendo as a present for my fifth birthday, I think. And when he went to the United States, he brought a lot of junk with him, like really just junk, some collector stuff, and so on and so forth. And he bought, there was like a sale going on, like a garage sale, and he bought, I think, like 20 VHS tapes with different wrestling shows. And that was I think 1999 or 2000, somewhere
Hmm.
around that part. I was like very small. I was like 7 years old, and he brought it to me. He brought it to my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad thought that it was like, that it was like MMA boxing thing, like that kind of thing. So he thought it was real. So he thought, this is like competition, and so on and so forth. And then when he watched it a few tapes, he was like, "This is bullshit." He was just, "I'm not gonna watch this."
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't throw out the tapes. He kept them, and I started watching them. And there was everything. There was WWE. At the time, they were called WWF. There was ECW, which was like the bloodiest
Yeah.
wrestling promotion I think ever. And there was also one tape with Japanese wrestling. There's like a company called New Japan Pro Wrestling, and there was one tape with them. So I started watching this, and I was like, "Well, this looks cool." Like I'm 7 years old, and these like jacked up dudes in fucking underwear beating the shit out of each other. Like there's like Steve Austin drinking fucking beer in the middle of the match. Giving everyone a finger, like
And you're like,
flipping the
he's
bird.
Russian.
Yeah, exactly. And ironically, like I think 6 months after that, they started showing these wrestling shows on Russian television. There was the channel called STS. It still
Uh-huh.
exists.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the TNT channel, also still exists in Russia. And on STS they were showing WWE, and on TNT they were showing Nitro, like
Yes,
WCW
yes, yes. The
Nitro.
one with Goldberg, Diamond Dallas Page, and
Yeah, and stuff like that. And they had different commentators there, Russian commentators, and they were like really freaking animated. And you know what the funniest thing is? Like right now, I realized after a few years, the Russian commentators, the ones on the STS channel, they were translating the names of wrestlers. They were translating the names
Oh.
of the finishing moves into Russian.
yeah.
and so, it was so weird, like right now going back, and there are still these videos on YouTube. You can find them, yeah. And it's so weird going back and hearing these Russian commentators like naming the wrestlers in Russian, like translating their names, their finishing moves. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that was my first experience with
My
wrestling.
my first match, I think I still remember it that I watched. It had the Ultimate Warrior in it.
Holy shit, that's old school. That's like
Yeah, yeah.
1980s. Yeah.
Yeah. That was like the one. And Shawn Michaels used to be like a nice guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he
But
was
in
like thin.
reality, he was like the biggest dick in the world. Like when
Yeah,
you watch
yeah,
documentaries, like he was the biggest dick ever.
yeah. I'm like,
Tell me,
yeah.
dude. Like, did you watch like the promos that the Ultimate Warrior would cut? Could you
I,
understand the word of what he was saying? He was just like screaming. It was like a steroid scream. Like I
yeah, but
couldn't
like,
figure out anything.
and you know what's so the problem is? I was so hyped. I had no idea what he was saying. Like zero, like nothing. Until this day, like I was rewatching some of it. I was like, what the F is he talking? And you can see like he's about to pop every vein in every people in all people's bodies just by talking, you know. But it got you hyped, no?
It got you the happy. You know, within the years, you realize that Jesus Christ, I was hyped for jacked up steroid dudes who would rub themselves in baby oil. Remember how shiny they all looked like? They were rubbing themselves with baby oil
Yeah.
just to
Yeah,
look like fucking bodybuilders. Like the fake tan that they would put on all the time. Like
but
that was. But back then, you were looking at this. These were like superheroes or something like
yeah,
that.
like man, I'm so happy that right now it just got to me that I never got an erection about any of them.
Oh,
You know, because you just said oil. It's like men gone wild, you know, like
it's like the prelude. It's the prelude for a Diddy party, you know. It's just like same thing basically. Yeah.
you
I'm
know.
sure that this was one of the shows that Didi had that he's mentioned. You know, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
now
yes.
we have wrestling.
Imagine like Diddy trying to get like blackmailing the wrestlers and like, I have videos of you putting body oil, and I'm like, oh, you watched the tapes as well. Thank God, thank you. You know, it's just
Uh, Listen, I have a small kind of like a small game to play with Omar and you because I don't know how much like Omar's knowledge is, but I know like
oof.
a little bit about how much Kirill of a fanatic on wrestling is. Because
Hmm.
there's one day I asked him like one question. This happened like months and months ago. I asked him one questions and I got like walls of text him explaining exactly what's happening,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, this guy knows a lot about this, you know?
Hmm.
So I'm gonna say the word. Omar, you tell like you say
Ah,
what you think it is, and
okay.
Kirill, you know,
Well,
if you know
correct.
Omar, if you know it, no,
Okay.
you never know. You might guess some of because I already cheated. Okay, what's angle?
Angle?
Yeah, what do you think that means in wrestling term?
No, like maybe like the camera angle to like make the punch look real.
Okay,
Did
do
I
you
get
have
it?
any other Do you have any other
Nothing
idea?
at all.
Okay, Kirill, what's an angle?
So two things that come to my mind. First, it's the like a wrestling angle. It's like a plot. It's like a mini story that they
Ah.
make between like two or three or maybe more wrestlers, and then they tell this story. They call it like a wrestling angle. Or, for example, like one particular situation, because there were a lot of like these wrestling, like NWO in WCW. Yep, that's probably one of the best wrestling angles like ever. There was a
What was it
there was an
about?
angle when Hulk Hogan turned bad guy, when he went to
Uh-huh.
WCW and he became like the bad guy, and they formed the NWO, the New World Order, and there was like him, Kevin Nash, Scott
Kevin Nash.
Hall, and
Uh, is Scott Hall the what's his name? Randy or
No, no, no,
Savage?
no. Randy Savage, he was there, yeah, but that's not in WWE. Scott Hall was known as Razor Ramon,
Oh, Razor
like
Ramon.
they
Razor
called him.
Ramon. Sorry,
Okay.
Razor
Yeah.
Ramon. Yeah, yeah,
So that's the first thing when I think when I hear the word Angle. The second is of course Kurt Angle. I mean, like, like
yeah.
he's probably one of the best wrestlers like of the 21st century. Like, just a great wrestler.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Keep this idea of best wrestler. We'll come back to it later.
Okay.
It is correct what Kirill said. Like an angle is like the fictional storyline.
Okay.
Okay. The second one, baby face.
When a guy looks young?
Okay. Kirill, this
It's a good
surprised me.
Yeah,
Or
it's a good guy in wrestling because they
ah.
have like special names for good guys and bad guys. Like babyface is a good guy and a heel is a bad guy. They also
Yeah.
had like in the 90s when the WWE when they wanted to be more realistic, yeah, because before the 90s it was like only like good guys and bad guys, yeah, that's it. But in
Mhm.
the 90s, they wanted to be more realistic, and they started this period of wrestling. It was called the Attitude Era, when like it was all about the attitude, and they started having twinners. So like a twinner is can be a baby face, but also shows like heel person. Like Steve Austin was the first twinner in wrestling,
Mhm.
I think, like because he was beating the shit out of everybody. He was flipping everyone off, but the fans like loved him. Like he was arguably
Ah,
biggest superstar in wrestling. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what a baby face is. Yeah,
And heel is the bad guy.
yeah.
yeah. A heel is a
Yeah.
bad guy.
Okay.
And turn heel is like when someone becomes a bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Uh,
Okay.
how is how is that decided?
Well, it can be different. If you listen to the producers, to the writers who write the show, and so on and so forth, they decide. There are several factors. Like for example, the crowd reaction, because like
Uh-huh.
best example we talked about it recently, you and me, Roman Reigns. Yeah, when they were like 9 years ago, they were shoving him down everyone's throat as a baby face, but everywhere they would go the crowd would boo him. Like they just hated his guts because he was a corporate
Yeah.
guy, and they realized they were pushing this babyface persona. And then they were like, fuck it, let's turn him heel.
Mhm.
Let's turn him heel. They turned him heel, and he became the biggest superstar in wrestling basically after that. That could be one thing.
Is
The other,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
other.
the other thing is when a character gets stale, because like when you're always a babyface, always a heel, uh, you need to be on television to get paid, to get recognized, and so on and so forth. And at one point, you can just that's it. There is nothing to tell about your character as a babyface, for example. And then
Mhm.
they're like, let's turn the guy heel. Let's see how he does, and so on and so forth. There was one guy in wrestling who they uh never turned heel for 20 years, and he just turned heel recently. That's John Cena. Like
Yeah.
he only recently turned heel. Like this is his final year in wrestling. He said like the year is done and I'm done in wrestling.
Oh.
And for 20 years he was a babyface, and there were points when they wanted to turn him heel because like the crowds were booing him and so on and so forth, but they were scared because they thought it would affect the merchandise sales, because he was like the top merch sale like for the company ever, and they were
Yeah.
afraid to do that. And now when it's his last year, they were like, fuck it, let's make him a bad guy, let's see what happens
Mhm.
with this. So
Do you
I
see
didn't
do you
even
see
know he
that?
was still wrestling, John Cena.
he's like 47 years old, but he's still wrestling. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Is he, would you consider him as like the guy who they break the glass just to bring more people, or it just like happened, or he
uh
needs money?
No, I mean he doesn't need money. He does a lot of Hollywood stuff. He films a lot of. He's basically like The Rock right now. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
he's like a movie star. He doesn't care about that. They bring him in when they need to elevate new talent, like when they want somebody to like to push somebody as a bigger star. They bring him in. They work with him, and so on and so forth. Sometimes he comes back because he loves it, and they are
Mm.
like, okay, we will find you a program, that you can have with somebody at the show, and so on and
Okay.
so forth. But but they do have the tendency of bringing the older superstars back just for the money. For example, I think we'll get to that, but the Saudi Arabia shows, they only bring these old guys for these shows because
Mhm.
the crowning prince loves wrestlers from the 90s, even if they're dead. There was a story, dude, this is the funniest shit ever. So when they did the second show in Saudi Arabia, I think it was like 6 years ago or something like that, the crowning prince was like, oh, you know what, I want to have Andre the Giant at the show. And there was a problem because Andre the Giant died 25 years ago.
Mhm.
It was I want him to be
Oh, man.
part of the show. Well, they they didn't have Andre the Giant, but they did have the Big Show, so they brought him in as
They
the
probably brought the Big Show, put a wig on him, and said, here's
yeah.
Andre the show or whatever.
Here's Andre. This.
Get hell. Okay. Next word, color. Omar, what do you think that
Color?
means? Yeah.
It's the kind of underwear slash shorts color you wear. I don't know, man. It's or something racist. Either that's all I can think of, you know?
Kirill.
So the color. Yep, the word
Yeah,
is
Yeah.
color.
color. Yeah. You mean like color as if COLOR?
Color.
Yep,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that thing. Oh, that's a good one actually. Give me 1 second. I don't really.
Hey, don't cheat.
No. I don't really know. It's
Uh-huh.
fuck color.
Yes, I know one word more than him.
Wait a minute. To give somebody color, how much color did they have? It's fuck. I think it's the blood. It's the blood. Like
Ah!
yeah, because they say he wears color, she wears color, and so on and so forth. I know it. You know, like I'm a little bit of an old school fan, so I don't
Yeah.
call it color. I call it like crimson mask because they always say
Okay.
he's wearing the crimson mask. You know, it's like that means that there's
Ah,
blood. Yeah.
yeah.
That's actually very interesting. Do you know how they do that? How they get like the color?
I think
I'll
like a
put
razor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
They blade themselves. Yeah.
Blade. It's called a blade. Please. Like that was my next word, but you guys beat me to it. Blade. And you know what's so funny? So like since the last like again, I'm rewatching all of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know when like for example, we're all comedians, yeah? And we watch a comedian and there are things that we only we see it.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah, yeah.
if a comedian is nervous, you know, with the wire thing, or when they look down or whatever, we instantly, oh, he or she's nervous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
now in wrestling, I'm actually seeing the parts where they pull out the blade, you
Oh,
know,
really?
or yeah, or when one wrestler like grabs another and then he whispers something in his ear,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
So
Okay.
Now,
they used to have at one point because blading is old school. Yeah, like this blading stuff is old school. So how the way that they would do that, they would hide and they used like a simple razor blade. Yeah, and they would hide it in the tape on their wrists. Like they would put tape. They would tape their wrists and they would hide the razor there. But there were some crazy guys back in the day, like 80s, yep, and stuff. They would hide it in their mouth. They would put the blade under their tongue. I have no fucking idea how the fuck they didn't cut their tongues off, but they would do that. Yeah, there was a period when they used blood pills. You know, like with the fake blood, which they use in movies.
Yeah,
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 they
yeah,
would be
yeah, yeah.
using those. But then I think that the wrestlers were like, that was not authentic. That looked very fake. And so, yeah. But now you can see the moments when they do that. It's like, you know, usually it's some hard impact with the guy's head. Like
Mm-hmm.
the guy hits the turnbuckle, for example, he goes down, and then the camera puts the focus on the crowd or the other wrestler for like several seconds, and the guy who hit himself, he uses this time just to blade himself, not to get caught on camera for
yeah, but
bleeding.
Mm.
you know where my question comes? Okay, so for us as audience watching from like watching this from the television, we don't see this. But what about the crowd that are in the stadium?
Oh, they see it. The front rows, they definitely see it. Yeah. You read some of the comments that the fans post on social media. Yeah, they say that, oh, that was the moment when this guy bladed, or that was the moment when the other guy bladed. Because the front row seats, they are like very close to stage. I was
Yeah.
at the front row because WWE came to Moscow twice in
Oh.
2012 and 2013. and I was there at the shows both times. And the second show, I was front row. Like I bought the front row tickets, and you could see everything. And the funny part is that you could even hear some of the wrestlers calling the shots in the ring. So if you listen carefully, you would hear like the guy would have the other one on his shoulders and be like, Irish whip, reversal, clothesline, and then they would do exactly that, like then the match they would do exactly that. So
when WWE came to Russia, were there like Russian interpreters for the commentator?
They had a few wrestlers back then who had like some knowledge of Russian language. They were using them to promote. But dude, like 2012 especially, that was like a star-studded show. They had CM Punk, they brought John Cena, Kane, like all those superstars. They came to Moscow. Like I was surprised that they brought, because these are the house shows. They call these the house shows that they don't show on television. And usually, like the big superstars, they don't like usually go on house shows, right? They just skip them. And in Moscow, we had like everybody, like Chris Jericho was there also. I still have his T-shirt actually. Like I still have a T-shirt that I bought like 12 years ago at the show. I have it like in my wardrobe here.
Okay. But here's the thing. Like for you, when you like in there in the audience, when you see like there's a blade, yeah, does that remove the magic from it for you? Like for example, if like you get what I'm saying, like does it dispel it and you say, oh, this is like I knew it's fake, but now it's too obvious that it's fake. I don't want to watch it later, or like it's fine with you, like you let that pass.
Well, it takes out the immersion, of course, a little bit.
Yeah.
There are some like if you are a wrestling fan who knows all the internal kitchen, so to speak, doesn't really break the immersion. Like the blading is not. There are some other moments that can really make a match suck. Like really, for example, miscommunication. There is this thing called botch. Yep, it's like when wrestlers fuck up the moves. Yep, like so when they
When
botch
someone's
the moves.
head hits the balls of another guy, like this, I saw too many times.
For example, or when there is like miscommunication between the wrestlers and the moves do not look very smooth, and so on and so. That can really fuck up the impression from the match, of course, But blading, I mean, it has become such a thing that you don't really care about that. Plus, right now they are trying to use the blood only when it's important, like because sometimes there was like ECW, for example, Extreme Championship Wrestling. They overdid with blood. Everyone was bleeding during every match. There was like the flaming tables. They were pile driving women on their heads, and stuff like that. So that was crazy fucking times.
Okay.
They had an angle. Once in 1996. There was a wrestler called Sandman. He had the coolest entrance in wrestling. So they would play Enter the Sandman. He would get through the crowd. He would drink beers, and the crowd would sing the song along while he was like entering the ring. So there was an angle when the other wrestler called Raven, he crucified him. Like they brought out a wooden cross and they wrapped his hands in barbed wire and legs, and they had this image where he was crucified. Like they were that was the crazy 90s where like so many angles that you would never see today, like really never you would see today. And that was overkill. That was overkill with blood, with everything. These days they're trying to use, well, let's say WWE, for example. They are trying to use blood when it matters. Like recently, for example, there was one of the hottest feuds. There was like Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, and they like feuded for like 4 or 5 months, and everything culminated in a Hell in a Cell match. They wrestled for 40 minutes and they were bleeding during that match. And you were like, that is great, because this is like the blow off to the feud.
Yeah.
And these guys really hate each other. Like, they made you believe that these guys hate each other. So blood was appropriate there. But then you change the channel and you watch AEW, for example, which is like the second biggest wrestling company in the United States. They're bleeding in every single match. They don't care. Dude, the latest like story why a lot of people started calling AEW trash wrestling. So there was a match between John Moxley and Adam Copeland. John Moxley is Dean Ambrose, formerly Dean Ambrose in WWE, and Adam Copeland was Edge in WWE.
Okay.
So they were wrestling a no-holds-barred match. And in the middle of the match, like, Copeland, he takes out the 2x4 with nails. So there were iron nails in that thing. And people at first thought, oh, those are fake. But then in the middle of the match, like this 2x4 with nails, it lies on the ground and Copeland suplexes Moxley back first into those nails. And he sits up. This fucking thing is sticking out of his back. So it's sticking out of his back. Like the
club with the nails, right?
Yes, the nails went into his flesh and it's sticking from his back. And the referee, the poor referee, he's trying to pull this thing out, but it doesn't come out. So he pulls the flesh, like you could see the skin being pulled together with the nails, and it just doesn't come out. So they cut it out eventually, but yeah.
Was that like a stunt gone wrong, or what? Or was that supposed to happen?
Moxley is just a crazy son of a bitch. He does that shit all the time. He's like more of a hardcore wrestler, a brawler, and he goes like, in this match, I want a fucking light tube to get broken over my head. And he does that. He goes like, I want to get like my head smashed with a chair for real. And he does that. You know, like there's the other thing. I want like a pile of thumbtacks and I want you to power bomb me on those thumbtacks. And he will do it. So the guy is just like fucking nuts. But this is an example of overkill because it's just violence for the sake of violence. You know, there is no story behind it. It's like, and it wasn't even a pay-per-view match. You know, it's not even like an important match. It's like just was thrown on television. So it feels very anticlimactic. Like, why would you do that? Or
when you said blow off, that means like that's the culmination. Yeah, that's like the punchline for the applause break, right?
It's the punchline for the story between the two wrestlers.
So okay.
Okay. Okay, hell, man, this is gonna go so okay. Yeah, Omar.
Here's my question, because as far as I understand, you're still a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I still watch it. Yeah, keeps me sane a little bit.
How weren't you turned off when you found out it's fake? Like, I know a lot of people, they were turned off the moment they found out it's fake.
Well, I mean, I was I stopped. There was a period when I stopped watching wrestling. I was 14, I think. I don't remember why I stopped watching it. I had already known that it was fake. Yep. And so on and so forth. And when you find out it's fake, yeah, it takes out a lot of magic from it, like really. And I understand people who stop watching it. But then when you like watch a few documentaries, for example, wrestling documentaries, and you realize that, yeah, the finishes are predetermined, the matches are planned most of the times, but the athleticism, the strength, the impact that they have is real. And the rings that they use, right now they are bumpy. Like, I mean, you can even see the wrestlers, like when they're like warming up for a match, you can see that the ring is bumpy. So you're like, oh, probably not so painful to drop on it.
Yeah.
But that has never been, but that's not always been like that. Until 1999, they were using wooden rings. So wrestlers would just bump on the wood. And that's why there were so many concussions, breaks, fractures, and so on and so forth. One of the biggest problems with wrestlers, at least until the 2010s, was the drug addiction, because wrestlers in WWE are on the road 300 days a year doing different shows. And you have to perform, you have to work out, because you have to perform like half naked in front of the world. And when you have some kind, and the mentality of old school wrestlers was, okay, I'm hurt. For example, you tore your meniscus, right? Or you have a dislocated shoulder or something like that, right? And the old school mentality was that I'll keep it quiet, because if they find out, they will put me off the road, and I am not going to work. I'm not going to make money.
So if you're off the road, you don't
And
even get paid.
It used to be like that before 2005, because after 2005, we started selling merch, DVDs, and so on and so forth. So the wrestlers started receiving royalties. Wrestlers started getting other contracts with like other companies, movies, and so on and so forth. But yeah, in the 80s and the beginning of 90s, you wouldn't get paid if you were not wrestling. So even when they had injuries, they would be like, "Fuck it, I'll keep it quiet," and they would stuff their faces with painkillers. Like Kurt Angle, he told the story that in 2006, when he was fired from the WWE, he was so fucked up, like his body was physically so fucked up, he was taking 20 pills of painkillers every single day because the pain was just too much. Like he was taking painkillers in such huge quantities because otherwise the pain was there. Like, and he couldn't stop. So, and why do you think so many wrestlers from the 80s, for example, are dead right now? It's injuries and drugs. It's injuries and drugs. Yeah.
I always thought because
Like-
the 80s was a long time ago. That's why I always.
Well, I mean, not all of them. Not all
yeah.
of them, of course. Yeah, I mean, Hulk Hogan is still alive. Bret Hart is still alive. Kevin Nash is still alive, and these guys are like 60 plus years old. So,
one thing you said about William. Well, okay, I'll switch to like one last word, and then I'll get back to my idea.
Okay.
The last word, gimmick.
It's the wrestler shtick.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank God, I know.
A gimmick is basically like a character that a wrestler creates for themselves. And the funny thing is that if you look at the superstars, like the real superstars of wrestling, and if you go back and you watch them in their earlier years, dude, it's funny. Like, take Steve Austin, for example. Yeah, Stone Cold. Yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, beer drinking redneck, flips off everybody, stuns everybody, raises hell and so on and so forth. But it wasn't always like that. Before he got hired by WWE in 1990s, he was working for WCW, and he had a different gimmick. He was a part of a tag team called the Hollywood Blondes. So he had like blonde hair. Imagine, yes, Steve Austin had hair at one point, had blonde hair, and his gimmick was like he was a rich punk-ass kid from Hollywood. Like that was his gimmick, for example, yeah. John Cena, he didn't even have a gimmick. Like, he became popular when he started rapping on the microphone. He had that rapper gimmick. Before that, he was a completely generic wrestler, like just the most generic wrestler without any character whatsoever. Fucking Kane, one of the most recognizable faces. I think one of the greatest wrestling debuts ever, and the greatest wrestling storylines. Undertaker's brother who survived, and so on and so forth.
Did he? Was his entrance? I think it was with Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Or am I mistaken?
When he debuted, debuted the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. They had Hell in a Cell match, the first Hell in a Cell.
First Hell in a Cell, yeah.
Kane was the guy with the
with the with the
Mask.
red mask.
Red mask.
with a
Yeah,
mask.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So but before that, before he got to this gimmick, he was playing an evil dentist. He was like, his gimmick was a fucking dentist on
Mm-hmm.
television. Like that was the funniest shit ever. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, he shot a documentary last year, and he was telling about that. And he was like, at first I was an evil dentist. Then there was a moment when Kevin Nash went to WCW, and in the WWE he had the character, he was called Diesel, right? Like his character was called
Yes.
Diesel. And when he left, Vince McMahon came to Caden. He was like, well, you will be, we still have the rights for the Diesel character, for the Diesel gimmick. You will be playing fake Diesel on television. And he, for like 6 months, he played fake Diesel on television. Like, you go back, you watch it, it's funny as fuck
Vi-
to watch like the early days.
Vince McMahon is like the old guy who like was making out with women. Yeah?
He was he was the owner of
Yeah,
WWE.
yeah, 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 yeah. I know him. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was the owner, and now he has like several sex trafficking lawsuits against him, and so on
Shout
and so
out.
forth. Yeah.
Uh, but by the way, here's a question I had. So when you changed from WWE to the WWC or whatever the fuck it's called,
WCW.
AA meetings, I forgot what's it called?
Well,
All
you mean like the
AAW.
companies? Well,
Yeah, you have to
right
change
now
your
there
name.
is WWE. Well, I mean, WWE usually they trademark the wrestlers' names. Uh, unless the wrestler is using their real name, obviously you cannot trademark the real name, right?
Hmm.
It's the wrestler's property. And yeah, so most 95% of the cases when
Ah.
you go from WWE to another company, you have to change the name. Yeah, and it's done not only to keep the trademark because maybe you will come back eventually to WWE. It's also done so that the wrestlers wouldn't take the audience together with them, right? There are some exceptions to the rules. Steve Austin, for example, that's his real name. I mean, his original name is Steve Williams, but then he changed it to Steve Austin, so that's his real name. So
Mhm.
he cannot trademark it. The biggest exception in my memory was CM Punk, because before he came to WWE, he wrestled at the Indies, smaller companies like Ring of Honor, TNA, and he had that name. He came to the WWE, he kept this name, and then he went to AEW for some time, he kept his name, and then he returned to WWE, but he trademarked his name himself. So that was his trademark,
Ah,
basically. But yeah,
nice.
most of the times WWE they have this thing that, oh, we want to own everything, right? We want to own the gimmick, the character, the name, and that's why they give you the one. They have like, like every year you can
Mhm.
literally like track it down. There is a piece of news coming out that WWE has trademarked these names. And there will be a bunch of wrestling names, and I bet you not that one of these names, one of the wrestlers will have in the future. Like they just trademark a shit tons of potential wrestling names just to keep it in case the wrestler
Like
decides to leave.
basically what they do, for lack of a better term, they throw shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, basically it is
Okay.
like that. Yeah, it is like that. Yeah.
I want to ask you, like you said you like in Steve Austin's case, before he was like the Hollywood blonde playboy. I really cannot imagine him having hair or like being anything related to Hollywood, except he had one good movie about the prison on an island. It was actually a good movie.
Mhm.
But anyways, I cannot
I
imagine
remember
that.
that
But
movie. Yeah.
yeah, how did he? Not did he? How did they do this transition from blonde pretty boy to Austin 316?
So there was he came to WWE in 1995, and they gave him the gimmick, like they called him the Ring Master. So he had this Steve Austin name, yeah, but he was called the Ring Master. And he was like more or less of a technical wrestler, not as much as a brawler, yeah, but a technical wrestler.
What's
And
a
then
technical wrestler?
like the wrist holds, takedowns, like less punches, more other moves, basically.
Oh,
Mm,
okay.
okay.
Like when you think when you hear technical wrestler, remember how Bret Hart wrestled his matches?
Yes,
That's
yes,
technical
yes.
wrestler. Yeah, that's a technical wrestler. So, but the gimmick was not working. Like the gimmick was not working, and then he dropped it. And he told the story that he was about to get fired. Like he was feeling that he was about to get fired. And then in 1996, they had this King of the Ring tournament, and he wrestled. There was a wrestler called Jake the Snake Roberts, also like an old school guy. And his gimmick at the time was that he found God. He was very religious, and he wrestled him like in the semifinals, in the finals, sorry, and he beat
Yeah.
him. Austin did, yeah, and then he cut the promo. Like he after his victory, he cut the promo, and that when the Austin 316 was born, because he was thinking like, okay, what can I say? Like I know that I'm gonna win. What promo should I cut? And somebody told him, that Jake is religious. Like, you can grind into that. And so in the middle of cutting a promo, he was like, use something like to the extent you stay there and you read your Bibles and you say your prayers. And then he goes, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass. And that's when it all started. That's when they started selling T-shirts with Austin 3:16. And that's when he started wrestling more aggressively, and he got the nickname Stone Cold. And then they started using that. Yeah.
Okay.
Omar, you had a question.
It's a weird question, but you're talking about how wrestlers they always have to be in like good shape for the matches or whatever. But what like the fat ones, are they like looked down upon, like like a fat model, like or whatever?
They used to be.
Ah,
Because
okay.
one of the biggest problems in the 2000s was that there were a lot of wrestlers who were not jacked. There were a lot of skinny wrestlers like Daniel Bryan, for example. He's one of the skinny guys. He's under 200 pounds, and so on and so forth. In AEW, there's a guy called Darby Allin. He's like 170 pounds. So I'm bigger than him, basically.
Okay.
And the problem was that Vince McMahon, WWE was like, after WWE bought WCW, there was no competition, like no competition at all. AEW only appeared like 6 years ago. Before that, for like 20 years, there was no competition. So everybody was trying to get to WWE. But Vince McMahon, who was deciding basically who will get the superstar push and who wouldn't, he had the idea of how a wrestler should look like. And his idea was you need to be at least 6'3", so it's like 190 centimeters, and you need to be at least 240 pounds, which is like 110 kilos, right? Or something like that. And so that was his vision. And that's why before 2015, 2014, like smaller wrestlers, skinnier wrestlers were not even pushed ever. There was TNA, smaller company. There was Ring of Honor, where these wrestlers all performed. And if you watch those matches with these wrestlers, they are like incredible, like really just super high speed, super technical, crazy. But the WWE had this agenda that we need to have like fucking jacked up big dudes. You remember the middle of 2000s? Who was there? Like Batista, Triple H, Undertaker, Edge. Yeah, these were all big guys. They were all big jacked up guys. And only recently they started like hiring small. There were exceptions throughout the years. Shawn Michaels, for example, he's not a big wrestler. He's
Chris
like 100.
Benoit.
Chris Benoit, he was not a big. Chris Jericho is also not a big wrestler, right? So there were exceptions, and you could be an exception if, for example, you had a great character. Like Chris Jericho is awesome promo. He's awesome on the microphone. Shawn Michaels is obviously like very flamboyant, animated and stuff. Chris Benoit is an exception because he was just very intense. He had like you watch his matches, these are fucking hard-hitting matches, right?
Yeah.
So he was an exception. And if I would track down who it started with in the WWE when the smaller guys start getting opportunities, CM Punk probably, CM Punk. With him, all of this started, this narrative that okay, we can put our world title on a smaller guy, and he can sell tickets. He can do everything, and so on and so forth. And right now, even the fatter guys, also can be super. Like you watch WWE, Kevin Owens, for example. Yep, Kevin Owens is a big dude. He's like fat. You can see the belly, sticking out. And he's one of the biggest superstars in the WWE right now. So right now, this era of big jacked up dudes is gone. Basically, smaller guys, fat guys, they all can get opportunities if they are good wrestlers, if they are good on the microphone, and so on and so forth. If they can cut a promo, basically.
Yeah. What makes, you said something which is very nice, which is like when I was watching some of the documentaries and the videos on the podcast, they said, what in your opinion, and also like for Omar too, like this question, let's say begin with Omar. What do you think are the traits for a wrestler to become to be used as famous, to be like to be used in the promotion, for them to push them forward, let's say?
I think like shit talking is one of like the if you can shit talk, you like basically select. Well, now I'm looking at it as if I'm the fucking organizer or whatever. But like if you can sell the tickets, then
Yeah,
of course you're gonna be famous, I think.
like one of the examples which I can think of was Randy Orton. One, like how what you said, like he's like he had the athleticism, he had the body, yeah, the shit talking, and on the microphone he was really good. He could sell himself. This is why I think, what's his name? Roman Reigns.
Roman Reigns.
At the beginning, people like disliked him because like when he's on the microphone, he was like he was zero. Until they just decide, okay, just go acknowledge me, just say this phrase and let people okay, they hate you, just go with the flow with it.
Actually, here's a question. How can someone be bad at with them? Like, is he, because as far as I understand, like they write the script for him.
There are a lot of things, like, for example, if you think that a wrestler can just go out and say whatever they want to, no, it's not true. Popular guys, famous guys do that. Sometimes you will get the rebel. Like you listen to CM Punk, for example, he never even read the scripts. He was like all his career, when some writer they have writers who write lines for you, basically, yeah. And he was like, some writer would come to me and show me what I was about to say, and I was like, okay, and I would tear it up in front of the writer. Because he's like, I don't need this shit. I can talk for myself. And like CM Punk, in my opinion, is the best talker in wrestling today. Because you can Google on YouTube CM Punk pipe bomb in 2011 when he cut that infamous promo. Because he was thinking about
when he was sitting in front of the entrance, right?
Cross-legged, on the stage, because he was thinking of leaving WWE because it was no fun for him, and he wasn't getting opportunities. And then Vince McMahon, he basically said, okay, we'll give you 10 minutes on the live mic, say whatever you want to. He went off. Like, in the middle of this, he was like, maybe this company will be better when Vince McMahon dies. But then I'm not so sure, because this company will be inherited by his dumbass daughter and his doofus son-in-law. Which was Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. Yeah. So he went off, like, really. And CM Punk is one of those guys who can talk on the microphone. And, for us, maybe as comedians, maybe because, like, we write stuff, we try to make people funny, laugh, maybe it's easier for us to talk, especially when you get this hosting experience, like you
Mm-hmm.
talk to people, they talk back at you, you talk back at them. Maybe for us, it seems like it's nothing, but dude, if you take like 100% of wrestlers in WWE, the ones who can cut a promo is maybe 15%.
What do you
Oh,
mean? What do you mean here? Cut a promo?
I was
Cut
about
a
to ask the same
promo,
question.
yeah, it's basically a promo is the time that you have on the microphone. When they
Mm-hmm.
give, okay, you will have this much time with the microphone in your hands. You like sell your feud with another wrestler or sell yourself, like make
Uh-huh.
people care about
Mm-hmm.
you. That's basically like their mini stand up, but the goal is not to make people laugh, although
Mm.
sometimes it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I still remember like John Cena is the other like great talker on the microphone. I remember like when he had a feud with Edge in 2006, and Edge was dating like the wrestler called Lita, and
Mm-hmm.
she was portrayed like as a hoe on television,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a promo that Cena cut on her, and he was like, "Pure vagina is like a fucking touchdown line. It's red, it's real experienced, and it's got 11 guys trying to score at once." And it's like, and he would go off like that. There is a promo between him and Roman Reigns in 2018. Dude, he
Yeah.
raped him on the microphone.
Mm.
He
Yeah.
like at one point back then Reigns was remembering the lines, and in the middle of the promo he forgets his lines, and Cena takes the microphone. He goes like, "Dude, that's called a promo. You need to learn how to cut it if you want to make it in this business." So he
Yeah.
just annihilated him on the microphone. So
Oh,
Like
nice.
this is a good thing, like almost said, but these like so in these promos, these lines are already written, or do wrestlers just wing it?
from time to time they can wing it. Like
Ah,
it
okay.
Uh-huh.
depends. There are
Ah,
some wrestlers who just are not very good promo, and
yeah.
they never learn. They can be very good in the ring, but as a promo, they are very bad. Like there is a good female wrestler in WWE. She was called Sasha Banks. Like her
Uh-huh. Yeah.
matches are great. She's a great wrestler, but she cannot cut a promo to save her life. Like
Mm.
it's just like she's so bad on the microphone. She sounds cringe, unnatural, and so on and so forth. So for these people, they usually write the lines, right? Okay, we see your character going this direction, and they write it. Some wrestlers can come up with their own lines. Like Steve Austin, for example, he would come with his lines himself. Can remember like
Uh-huh.
there was a segment in 2012 with him and CM Punk, which was great. And Punk was like, Punk is straight edge. He doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs, he doesn't smoke. And he was like, well, and he told Austin in this promo, he was like, well, at least I don't drink, so I can tell you alphabet backwards. And Austin goes like, well, I can whip your ass backwards. And that was the line that he improvised, like no one
Mm.
told him to say this line. And I'm like, this is it, like this is brilliant.
I
So
have a question for you. Like, do you when you're watching these promos, yeah,
Uh-huh.
do you recognize when a wrestler is kind of like improvising and when they're just reading from a script, or
mhm,
like some of them sell it so well it just seems that they're improvising, let's say.
only a few can sell the written
Mm.
Uh-huh.
lines. You can see it. Most of the times you can see it.
Yeah.
There are different types of promos. So, for example, there is a completely scripted promo that was written for a wrestler. There is a completely unscripted promo when the wrestler comes out and just says whatever they want to. And there is something in the middle when the creative team gives the wrestler the bullet points to cover in the promo, but how the wrestler gets there, it's all up to the wrestler.
Mm.
Like that's so it's like three different ways. The last one, the latter, is very difficult to recognize because
Mm-hmm.
like a wrestler can sound authentic, yeah, but gets the point across,
Yeah.
for example. And yeah, I mean, there are examples of such like the most scripted promo in wrestling, the best example of the most scripted promo in wrestling is The Rock. His promos are always scripted. He cannot cut a promo authentically to save his life. He memorizes his lines. John Cena, when they had a feud like 10 years ago, 13 years ago, he made fun of him for writing the lines on his arm. Because The Rock would be writing lines, and Cena would just come out and destroy him like authentically on the microphone. So The Rock is the most scripted one. CM Punk is probably the most unscripted, because he knows how to sell a match. He knows how to sell a feud, and he goes in there and he just says what he wants. Something in the middle, I would say John Cena is very good. Like, they tell him what he needs to do. Yeah. Like, okay, this is what we want you to get across. You know, when he feuds with a wrestler nobody gives a fuck about, for example, yeah, he goes like, make this interesting. We know that nobody cares about this feud. Make it interesting, but you need to do this, this, and this, for example, yeah. And he goes like, okay, I'll fill it in, and he goes there and he does that. So it's 3 different ways of how a promo can be cut.
Okay, you said that there's a now this is a question, like creative writing team, yeah. How much do they influence the whole thing? Because again, this also like breaks the magic, yeah. Because the moment you realize there's a creative writing team, you're like, oh, it's all scripted. It's already written who's gonna win and all of this. What's the creative writing team's job in this case?
So their job is, for example, they come to a show, right? And they have their storylines for the show. And the creative team's job is basically to script the development of the storyline. So, okay, what promos can we have today? What angles can we shoot today, for example, right? And so on and so forth. In WWE for a long time, between 2013 and 2020, before Vince McMahon finally retired, he was basically the one in charge, and he didn't give a fuck. It was his personal toy. There were stories that they have a full team of writers, right? There are about like 10 people there. And there would be stories like every single fucking week, they would write a script for the show. They would show it to Vince McMahon like an hour before the show. And he was like, this is shit. I don't like it. And they would have to completely rewrite the show, or he would rewrite the show himself. Ironically, this period was the shittiest in WWE.
Okay.
That was the closest that I came to stop watching the WWE altogether, because it was so bad. It was just bad.
When was this?
It was between 2017 and 2020.
Okay.
Like, this was the most insufferable period. The storylines were so fucking bad. So fucking bad.
My question is, how do they decide who's gonna win? Like, is it like voting the like the guy with better promotion wins, or like how's it decided, I guess?
Well, before Vince McMahon retired, it was all Vince. Like, he would make the decisions in WWE, right? In WWE, he would always make the decisions. That's why Abed remembers that insufferable period when they were shoving Roman Reigns up everyone's throat. Like, it was obvious that nobody liked him because they knew that it was Vince's pet project, but they were still pushing. Like, he was booed for 3 years until they finally turned him heel, because Vince was like, no, they're going to love him. Eventually, they're going to love him, pal. And so on and so forth. Apart from Vince, if you go to other companies, like AEW and even today's WWE, it's all about the popularity of a wrestler. It's about the crowd reactions. Like, if a crowd is behind the wrestler, they will push this wrestler, most likely, or at least they will give them the chance to do that. Like, for example, right now, Jey Uso is one of the hottest wrestlers in WWE. Yep. and it completely came out of nowhere. So he won the Royal Rumble, and he's probably gonna be the world champ at WrestleMania. Because, but before that, like 2 years ago, Jey Uso was just a fucking tag team wrestler. Like nothing, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, he was just a great tag team wrestler, but he got over authentically with the audience, and right now they're pulling the trigger on him. Yeah, let's make him one of the faces of the company, and let's see how it goes. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Like in 2004, for example, when they put the world title on Randy Orton. Like Randy Orton beat Chris Benoit in 2004 to win the title. He was 24. He was very green at the time. And they took the title off of him a month later because they were like, it doesn't work out right now. Like right now is not the time. It doesn't work out. So, and they put the title back on Triple H, which is, I mean, there is, among the wrestling community, there is this term which is called the Reign of Terror. It's the time when Triple H was on top between 2002 to 2005. It was bad. Like Triple H was insufferable, but he married into the family. He's married to Stephanie McMahon. Yep. So he had a lot of control, a lot of creative control, and so on and so forth. It came to a point where he was the champion and he could bury other wrestlers, just bury them completely and be like, no, I don't like this guy. There was a story in 2001, in 2000, sorry. So Triple H had already been at the creative meetings, and they were thinking of putting the title on Kurt Angle. And Kurt Angle back then, he wrestled only for a year, but he was he's an Olympic champion. Kurt Angle in 1996 won an Olympic medal, gold medal in wrestling. And they were thinking like, okay, let's put the title on Kurt Angle. And Triple H was like, well, I don't think it's a good idea. He's very small. It's not believable. And Kurt, he's like 180 centimeters, maybe like 100 kilos, you know, or something. So was one of the smaller wrestlers. He was like, I don't think that it's realistic. I don't think that people will believe it. He cannot realistically beat anyone. And then one of the writers of the creative team, he stood up, he looked at Triple H, and he was like, let's make a shoot fight between you and Kurt and see who wins.
Like shoot fight is like a real fight.
A real fight. Yeah. Because Kurt Angle would have ripped him into shreds. Because Triple H, he's just old muscle. He knows how to wrestle, but he doesn't know how to have a real fight. And Kurt Angle is a legit fucking wrestler. Greco-Roman wrestler, you know, like, and so that was that.
When does it go out of control? Like, I remember this, and I'm not sure, like, again, for me, it always comes down to, oh, this is a nice fight. Then for me, it clicks that, oh wait, this is fake. So I just go, like, the immersion is broken. It goes out of my mind. The one that I really remember was Brock Lesnar, when he had in what's it called, Kimura, the hold,
Kimura lock, when he's holding the hand like this.
Yes, you know. And it seemed that he dislocated like a few wrestlers' shoulders. Now, is that real? Or is that scripted? Or
well, with Brock, it's a little bit different because Brock is a legit fighter. He was the UFC heavyweight champion. He's a real fighter. So he knows how to make it realistic. Most of the things are scripted, but there are cases when accidents can happen. You know, you might break someone's arm, you might break someone's neck. It happens. With Brock, there was a crazy fucking scripted thing. So I think it was 6 years ago, he had a match at SummerSlam with Randy Orton. And the plan was for Brock to win, and he won. But how he would win? The plan was that he would win by stoppage, the referee stoppage, after he would repeatedly hit Randy in the head with elbows and make him bleed. And that was real. Because Randy himself, he came up to Brock and he was like, dude, if you're going to hit me with those elbows, hit me for real. And you can see, like, the camera just zooms in, you can find that match. He really fucking crippled his head with the elbows. He was hitting him with the elbows for real. And if you watch MMA, you know that the elbows are very effective because they can cut people. You know, they can cut the head and then the blood comes out. And he cut Randy for real with the elbows. And he gave him a concussion as well. So Randy was legit knocked out during that match. Like, and it was a scripted ending, but it was real ending. Then there was a match, unscripted. There is a wrestler called Braun Strowman, like a big guy.
Big guy, yeah.
Yeah. And so in the middle of one of the matches, he had a match with Brock, and he got carried away. And so he accidentally hit Brock with his knee into the head. And you could see that Brock was like, what the fuck is this? So Braun has him in the hold. Brock breaks out and he punches him in the face for real. And you can see that Strowman, he goes wobbly. And later they said that, yeah, Brock didn't like that he got hit in the head. So he just punched him for real. And then he told him, take it easy, big boy. Like, so slow down, dude. You don't want to fuck with Brock Lesnar, you know, like you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, remember like Joe Rogan had a joke at one of his special. He was like, you look at the guy with Brock Lesnar, you're standing right next to him, and there is at least one tiny brain cell in your head that goes, please do not fuck me, please. Because if Brock Lesnar decides to fuck you, like, what are you going to do? Fight it off for a certain amount of time? Right?
I will hope for a referee.
I
hope for a referee to like come and. But actually,
I hope for the referee to bend over with me, you know?
Exactly.
So can it happen like that? So I guess it's gonna be two questions. Like, you accidentally like you're not supposed to win, but you break a guy's arm accidentally, and then they just put the win in your favor, yeah?
So there is a rule that they have. Like, the referees that you see there, they actually do their job, right? The referees do their job, and the referees are told all the time to call it as it's happening. Yeah. So, for example, the referees very rarely know who the winner is. Just the referees. Yeah, they don't tell the referees who the winners are. So basically, they tell the referee, if the guy's shoulders are down, you count 3. Like, it doesn't really matter who's supposed to win. And there are some cases in wrestling history, in modern wrestling history, when the wrestlers won the matches when they were not supposed to. Like, the referee would count 3, and the wrestler who got pinned, he just forgot to kick out, or he couldn't kick out, or something like that. So yeah, things like that happen. This is unscripted. It happens very, very rarely, but sometimes they go with a plan. Or they can change the finish on the fly if a wrestler gets hurt, like seriously hurt in the match. Like, if a wrestler gets hurt in the middle of the match, sometimes they can finish the match. If it's a concussion, for example, you can. Like, one of the most famous matches in WrestleMania history is when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker, when he broke the streak. Yeah. When he broke the streak. It was a 30-minute match. Undertaker got concussed 5 minutes into the match. And he tells in the interviews, he was like, I don't remember the match. Like, I don't remember the match at all. Because after the match, he was rushed to the hospital because it was so serious. And he was like, I don't remember the match at all. Like, I remember only the first 5 minutes. Everything else was like a blur.
Well, that's the match where he like did his like Mike Myers get up, how
He
he
does
does it,
that.
like
He does that all
yeah,
the
yeah,
time.
but
Yeah,
there was a match, I think it was
Mhm.
with Brock Lesnar, when he wanted to get up, but he couldn't.
Yeah, there was one that was the match. Yeah, you could
Yeah,
see that
okay.
he did it. He tried the second time and he did it, but you could see that it was painful for him because he got concussed, like seriously during the match.
So
Like,
when
so yeah. Mhm.
continue your thought. I'm sorry.
So there was like a case, for example, in 2001, Triple H. There was a tag team match: Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Stone Cold. And Triple H tore his quad, like in the middle of the match, and he finished the match. He couldn't stand at all on his foot, but he finished it, and he was out for like a year after that because it was like a very serious injury.
Hmm.
So
My question is, so like when wrestlers throw a punch, is it like an actual punch, like they connect, or?
well, it's not really. How they're taught is that in wrestling there is a rule: no closed fist punches. Like it's a rule. It's written in the rules of wrestling. Yeah. So when you see them throwing a punch, right before it's about to connect to their faces, they open their palm. Like you can,
Mhm.
Steve Austin, for example, throws this kind of punch, right? Where you could see that in the last moment he opens his palm. Yep, and it's not so hard. Sometimes there are wrestlers, you watch their punches and you're like, it's real punches. There is no way it's not real punches. The
Mhm.
best one is Bret Hart. Like, go back, watch his matches. Bret was the master of throwing the fake punch to make it look real. I watch like the matches, I know it's fake, right? But I'm thinking like, shit, this is real. Like, this
Mm.
looks real.
Like
Yeah.
one of the things that I remember watching, like for example, The Undertaker, where he would wear these gloves,
Mm-hmm.
like it looks like padded gloves.
These are the gloves for MMA fights.
Yeah,
These are the like the real gloves. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, and it
Okay.
looks like it's so that he doesn't punch like so that it's still closed fist, but it's like it does not
It
the
is.
impact.
Yeah, it is. And then there is another purpose for that. It decreases the chances of you breaking your hand.
Uh-huh.
Because one of the reasons why you can see some wrestlers taping
Yeah,
their hands, yep, taping their fists, they're doing that to fixate the
yeah,
fingers so they wouldn't break their fingers. Because it's one of the most regular injury in wrestling. Like you throw a punch or something happens and you break your finger, for example.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
And that's that. Yeah, so that's why they do that. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Now here comes like another question about like since we're talking about punches, like one of the most famous punches or punchers is Mike Tyson,
Mm-hmm.
where he joined. Well, I don't know, he joined
You're
or they
talking.
invited him.
I know where you're going. Like it's when he punched Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
that was a
Like,
real. That was a real punch. That was a real
Okay.
punch. Shawn talked after that they rehearsed it so that he wouldn't connect with the chin. But Mike is a boxer, so and he slightly connected, but it was enough for Shawn to actually like have his jaw hurting for the next couple of days.
Oof.
So that punch connected a little bit too harder than
yeah,
they
yeah.
thought it would be.
Like, do other like boxers, UFC people, do they shit on wrestling for it being fake, or do they actually enjoy
Of
it?
course.
Ah, okay,
Well,
okay.
they're 50-50, there are people who they're UFC fighters who enjoy wrestling for what they are, for what it is. Yeah, not even like UFC fighters, boxers. Tyson Fury is a big fan of wrestling, for example. Mike
Hmm.
Tyson is a big fan of wrestling. Cain
Okay.
Velasquez is a big fan of wrestling, right?
Hmm.
So Conor McGregor is a big fan of wrestling.
Okay.
And so yes, so there are some who enjoy it, and they
Hmm.
are very because here's the thing that not a lot of people maybe realize. Right now, WWE and UFC are under the same parent company, so it's
Uh-huh.
like common. So they do business together right now.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna be surprised if in the future we will see some UFC fighters participating at WWE events, for example. Yep. and it sells tickets. It increases the popularity, it sells tickets, and so on and so forth, because it's an attraction. Like Brock Lesnar, for example, is an attraction. Like people buy tickets to see Brock Lesnar specifically because he's just that kind of guy.
Okay. You talked about rehearsals, yeah? So they rehearse the fight before. Like, I have a question here. How many, like, if I can ask, how many times, and is it one-to-one? Like, of course, there will be some like changes, and like, at least another question, are these changes like in the ring, or like one day before, or 1 2 hours says, hey, listen, there's a small change. Like, what about those rehearsals?
So it depends. If you talk about how the matches are put together, yep. If we talk about regular wrestlers who compete like every single day or most of the times, yeah, they practically do not rehearse matches at all. They like, okay, so here's the plan. They put the bullet points, to their matches, the spots, so to speak,
Yeah.
which they want to do, and they are good enough to improvise in the ring, right? They're good enough to like improvise in the ring, and so on and so forth. Then, if we talk about part-timers like The Rock, for example, yeah, for him, he prepares for a wrestling match like UFC fighters prepare for their fights. It's a fucking camp. So he rehearses the match like for 2 months in a row, for example, because he doesn't do that on a regular basis and he cannot do it on the spot, so to speak. Sometimes the wrestlers have the time cut from their matches due to like some timing issues. So and it's a problem sometimes because, for example, two wrestlers were preparing for a 15-minute match, and then the producers come and say you only have 7 minutes, and they have to cut the match twice, right? And they have very few time to prepare for that.
How do they know like how much time is left? Is there like
The
a timer?
producers tell them. The referee tells them. The referee tells them. So the referee tells them like, okay, you have this much time left. Or when it's about to be the end, the referee tells them, okay, go to the finish, right? So the referee communicates to the wrestlers how much time they have left, what they need to do. The referees actually are very useful, not only as referees, they also give wrestlers advice on how to behave. For example, there is this thing which is called the hard camera angle, right? It's the camera which covers the ring, like what you're seeing right now.
White camera.
Yeah, white camera. Yeah. And the referees can say, for example, they after the wrestler won the match, the wrestler can be a little bit out of it, and they'd be like, look at the hard camera, like they would come to them and be like, look at the hard camera, pose on the turnbuckle or something like that. So the referees would throw in some pieces of advice to them. It's a very well organized mechanism, the way that it all works. From the moment the wrestler makes an entrance to the moment that they celebrate the victory in the match, right? This is all like very well organized and rehearsed in terms of what they need to do, how they need to do it, and so on and so forth. So
I don't know. Do you guys play the WWE video games? Like
I do,
Well,
yeah, of course.
I only played the PlayStation 2 once, and I stopped because I lost every match.
Those were the best games ever. Like the WWE games. I mean, I might sound like a fucking old school gamer. I think Abed agrees with me. Like, I think that the games from 2000s were much better than they are right now. I think we share this opinion. Yeah. So, and the wrestling games were the same because I really enjoyed the wrestling games from the like late 2000s, like 2006, 2007. I think those were the best. There were the wrestling games in the 90s, like there was No Mercy for Nintendo 64, for example, one of the best wrestling games ever. But the wrestling games today, they don't have the charm or the craziness of the wrestling games, like of the
If
past.
I can recommend for you a
Mm-hmm.
game which I played maybe like a year ago almost, it's called WrestleQuest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you
It's
know
an
it.
indie game. Yeah, it's an indie
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's you know the figurines,
Mm-hmm.
the toy figurines, yeah. Like it's these guys are come to life and they're like wrestling and you play with like two characters. Yeah, and it's an RPG. It's like a turn-based, and it's
Okay.
made so well with all the terms that we're talking about. From
Mm-hmm.
heel, gimmick, all of that stuff, even story. It has a
Mm-hmm.
very nice storyline. Like I would recommend
Yeah.
for wrestling. This is it's a very fun video game about this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true. Like there is one thing though. We've been talking, like the wrestling that we've been talking about so far. It's like the American wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's the
But then
Japanese.
there, but then there is the Japanese wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
These wrestlers beat the fuck out of each other.
Oh, so
Like
it's real.
yeah, it's like so they still have predetermined finishes,
Mm-hmm.
but the elbows, the kicks that they throw. The Japanese wrestling style is known as strong style. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
the strong style. It's literally strong style. They connect with the elbow strikes, with the kicks, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And in general, if you want to watch like a wrestling match and then have a feeling that, Jesus Christ, I've just seen two people beating the fuck out of each other, this
Mm-hmm.
is Japanese wrestling. Like you need to go and watch Japanese wrestling.
Okay.
This is what it
Uh,
is. Yeah.
I have this question. Do you guys know what dead internet theory is?
That the internet is no longer the same. Yep, and
Ah.
so on and so forth.
Oh no, it's that the internet is basically repeating itself. Like there's no new content on the internet.
Ah.
So
Mhm.
for
Okay.
example, you will always find the videos of a scandal. There's nothing new, there's nothing creative. It's just recycled in a different form, in a different
Uh,
like package.
I disagree. Have you seen? We're gonna get a little bit political here. Have you seen the protests in Turkey? How the fucking Pikachu became like the meme of the current protests in Turkey?
Okay, well, here's how I will tell you it's the same. In Egypt in 2011, there was a
mm-hmm.
guy who was wearing I think a bucket and like a carton on himself, and he had
Uh-huh.
like a shield, also a carton shield, and it was
Uh-huh.
like the same as this Pikachu. And he was like, and people were making, oh, he's an RPG, he's like World of Warcraft. He's like this
Uh-huh.
getting +5 to protesting, +2
Okay,
to
fair.
against bullet. So
Yeah.
Okay,
but yeah, yeah,
fair.
yeah.
You know,
Now, yeah,
though, when I saw this Pikachu trending as
so
the
funny.
Turkish,
Mm-hmm.
like a
Uh-huh.
protest symbol, I thought to myself, what if the police tases him? Because Pikachu is the electric Pokemon, like so it should work.
The, the,
Like
the,
if he's real, like it should work on him.
the police is like, I
Uh,
know what to do. We have to catch them all, basically. And they just collect the people, send them to
collect the
prison.
Pokemon.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I
Uh,
would have loved if he had tasers with him. That would have completed it for me.
yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I really like such things at protests, like when you
Yeah.
see such fun stuff. Because in Georgia, for example, we have 110 consecutive days of protests here. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
they have no real effect, obviously. Yep. But it's nothing like there is nothing to meme about these
Yeah.
protests. There is nothing to meme. And then again, on a personal level, it's very weird to me. Like, for example, maybe you've heard that there are protests in Serbia as well. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And in
Yeah.
Serbia, when you look at the videos of the protests, you only see Serbian flags.
Mm-hmm.
Only Serbian flags. So at the very least, the people are coming out because for their country. Like, we need to fix some shit in our country. That's why
Yeah.
Serbian flag. The same was in Russia 13 years ago. Abed maybe remembers that. I remember that I was there at those protests. Only
Mm-hmm.
Russian flags, no other flags, only Russian flags. In Georgia, every fucking day, it's Georgian flags, European Union flags, American flags, Ukrainian flags, Germany flags. And I'm like, what are you protesting for? You know, I don't get it.
Well, and now in Turkey, you have like, Japanese culture invading. You know what I also love about this Pikachu guy is I
Uh-huh.
would think he's just a guy who was going to a kid's birthday and a surprise. You know, and it just fucking happened.
I'll
Yeah.
imagine that for a few minutes there, he became one of the hottest things on the internet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well,
That's how it
yeah,
works. Yeah.
yeah. I love like Turkey. They're famous for the assassin, the shooter guy.
Oh, the shooter from the
Ah, yeah,
Olympics.
Yeah,
at the Olympics. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then Pikachu. But so here leads to my thing now about wrestling. Do you think
Yeah.
now it's dead wrestling theory that there's nothing creative, it's just something that's repeating? Oh,
Oh,
here's a
yeah,
baby
definitely.
face, here's then a
Mm.
heel. So like you can actually kind of predict what's gonna happen.
Mm.
Definitely. I would say that in wrestling right now, it's the same thing as with movies.
Mhm.
Nostalgia. People
Uh-huh.
are getting into nostalgia because a lot of people think that modern day wrestling is shit. And there is some truth to that. I would agree with that, you know.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
So there was a magic about wrestling in the 80s because there is this thing as kayfabe. Yeah, there is the term kayfabe,
Mhm.
and wrestlers would always, in the 80s and the beginning of 90s, they would try to protect kayfabe. What does kayfabe mean? So, for example, it's trying to make it look like wrestling is real. So in the 80s, you would never see heels and baby faces traveling together or chatting to each other. No, they
They
were
were
told
selling it.
specifically, yeah,
Mm.
they were telling specifically, sell it. You're a heel. This is your arch nemesis. You cannot be seen in public like chit-chatting to your nemesis. It doesn't work like that. And only in the 90s, when wrestling got
Mhm.
into the public eye for being fake predetermined results, because wrestling was trying to get, imagine this, Vince McMahon was trying to get sports license for wrestling,
Mhm.
right?
Uh-huh.
As if it was a real sport. But then when a few articles, a few pieces, hit pieces on wrestling came out, Vince McMahon didn't want to pay taxes because these hit pieces, they were trying to expose wrestling as a real sport because that was the legend back then. And basically, Vince McMahon did not want to pay like 30% tax of all of
Mhm.
his shows. So he came out and he was like, this is fake. Vince broke
Ah.
the kayfabe in the 90s,
Uh-huh.
basically. You know, he said it himself, it's fake. But people are feeling very nostalgic about the Attitude Era. You know, when everything was
Yeah.
felt real, it was Wild West, and so on and so forth. And right now, everything is so polished,
Mhm.
you know, like
Yeah.
polished and stuff like that. So it's like you have only relics of the past which keep this wrestling kind of mystique a little bit. And now wrestlers are allowed to bring more real life stories into their
Oh.
characters. Like CM Punk keeps up with this very nicely. Drew McIntyre actually does that as well.
Mhm.
So there are some wrestlers who know how to do it, you know, and it doesn't. It's very interesting. Like I would, for example, if I see the ad that CM Punk is at the show and he's going to be in the ring with a microphone, I'm going to watch it. You know,
Mhm.
like I'm going to watch it because there was a promo I think like a month ago that CM Punk cut and he was like pissed, you know, like in the promo. And he came out and he just dropped the pipe bomb. So The Rock, he came back to WWE and he now has this gimmick like I'm the final boss. Like he has this final boss gimmick, and also because he is one of the chairmen of the
Mhm.
parent company that owns
Mhm.
WWE, right? So he comes back, he does whatever the fuck he wants, and he has this thing when he makes his entrance, you know, the camera zooms in on his arm and he goes like this. Like, you see, there are goosebumps on my arm. This is what I like wrestling for. And some fan made him a fake title, like the People's Champion, that he's the People's Champion, and he carries that title. And so Punk, a month ago, he was very upset. So he came out and he was like, "Who do you want me to talk about?" And the crowd started chanting, "Rock, rock, rock." And he was like, "Okay." So he looks into the camera and he was like, "Listen up, Dwayne, you bald fraud. You think like you're the big shot, that you can come back just because you're the chairman of this company, but you don't know who the hell you're dealing with. You pretend that you like this business. You want just to come back and do this bullshit." And then he does this, because this is what The Rock does when he makes his entrance here. To fucking slap your arm, to pretend that you care about this business, when in reality you're just a fucking fake who cannot cut promo to save your life. And this much aggression, and you know that it's real because, like, he says facts, this is real. You're listening to that, you're like, wow, I'm like, it's like a movie, it's like watching a movie, basically. Punk is one of those guys who's very good at doing that. So
Like,
yeah.
as a wrestling fan, how do you feel about like this Logan Paul, the YouTuber, becoming a wrestler?
Fuck.
Wait, now,
Okay, so
you know what we need right now? 1 second, Kirill. We need a heart monitor for Kirill right now, just to see how his heartbeat just spiked.
I hate Logan Paul. Like, I
Okay.
think that he's a shit human being. I mean,
Pre-wrestling
like,
or
he's just in general,
okay.
he promoted a lot of crypto scams. He filmed a dead body in Japan. He never takes responsibility for anything. And like, I hate him as a guy. As a wrestler, in the ring, he is talented. I mean, like, he can do things that a lot of other people can. He's very athletic. Again, he's a real athlete. He's a collegiate wrestler, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
He's
I
like
also
an amateur wrestler. He does this boxing shit, but I mean, for fuck's sake, his brother does too. But try to convince me that Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight was not fixed. Like, come on. I mean,
Oh, you're also one of those
really.
people who think it's also fake, yeah?
This was fixed, of course. Like, Mike got $20 million for that fight, and
Okay.
like, it doesn't really matter. And besides, Jake Paul, the only time that Jake Paul fought a real boxer, he lost when he fought Tyson Fury's brother. That was the only time that he fought a real boxer. Because other than that, he fought washed up MMA fighters who are way past their prime. And when you're fighting 58-year-old Mike Tyson, I mean, he's still Mike Tyson, of course, yeah, but he's 58 years old, and Jake Paul is like, what, 25, 26? I mean, come on. No, so I'm waiting for him to step into the ring with a real boxer again, to have his ass handed to him. But
money
that can
talks.
only be in my dreams.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So as a wrestler, Logan Paul in the ring, he's good.
Mm-hmm.
And he has, I understand why WWE brings him in, because he's a celebrity, right? He's popular. And besides, he has a very punchable face, and he has like good heat. So there is this thing as heat in wrestling, yeah? That is usually talked about heels, bad guys, When somebody has heat, it means that you will tune in to watch the show just to see this fucking cunt get their asses kicked. And Logan Paul has this heat, he has this heat when every time he talks on the microphone, he opens his mouth, he shows his face up. People want to see him getting beat up. And for business, this is good. So but then again, I don't like this thing when there are so many talented wrestlers who have been in the industry for like a decade and they cannot get to the WWE, although they are very nice, very good. Like fucking AJ Styles, it took him 15 years to get to the WWE. The guy is one of the best wrestlers alive, like on the microphone, in the ring, period. And here is Logan Paul, who just because he's a fucking celebrity gets bypass to compete in WWE, to compete at WrestleMania, to win a fucking title in the WWE, because he was the United States champion, I think, in the WWE, which is fucking ironic because I think the guy lives in fucking Colombia or wherever. So
Okay.
Like
this is weird.
here's another thing. Like those titles, the Intercontinental, the US title, the world champion, and there's world heavyweight. I don't know. Like there are so many of these titles. What's their, I don't want to say like, yeah, ranking, and what's their importance? Like, for example, when you tell me world heavyweight, and then I see the guy with the beard, the yes, yes, yes guy. What's his name again?
Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I see him, like, I'm not sure if he won it, but if I see him win a heavyweight champion, I was like, but you're not heavyweight. Like, for me, it doesn't connect.
Yeah, it's a big deal. They call it the world heavyweight title. In reality, this is just like the top title in the company. So right now they have two top titles because they have two main shows, Raw and SmackDown, and they need to have like the top title for every show. So they have the WWE title and they have the WWE World Heavyweight title. Yep. So these are the top titles at the shows. Then they have Intercontinental and the US titles. These are in the hierarchy of championships. This is like below the world titles. Yep. But why do they have these titles? So they use the Intercontinental, and so whenever they have a prospect superstar on their hands, they'd be like, okay, let's put the Intercontinental or the US title on them, like to see if they can handle the pressure of being the champion and to see how people would respond to them. So it's basically preparation for a potential world title run.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is what it is. Back in the day, it used to be much more prestigious. Much more prestigious. Before wrestling was only WWE, there was NWA, National Wrestling Alliance, and basically everything was split into territories. Like every single state had their own wrestling promotion, and the NWA basically united all of these promotions. And whoever was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, they would travel practically every single day to a different state and defend their title there. So it's like, imagine 300 matches per year that you have. And it was a crazy schedule. It was just a crazy. Right now, it's much lighter. But back in the 80s, 90s, it was much crazier than it is today. So yeah, the tag team titles, obviously, they are just for tag team wrestling, because tag teams can also be entertaining. Like it's also a very good entertaining wrestling. And of course, then there are the women's world titles, which is actually quite funny because women's wrestling were not considered even a real wrestling until 2017, when they had this women's wrestling revolution. Because before that, they had women's wrestling, but they were not called wrestlers. They were called divas.
Yeah.
And the talent was not the main thing. The main thing was the looks.
Yeah.
So they would hire like supermodels, or very pretty girls like Trish Stratus, for example. She was like a supermodel before she became a wrestler. And the criteria for a popular female wrestler was simple: pretty face, big boobs, or nice ass. That's it.
Okay.
Looks good in lingerie. Yeah, when stripped down. Yeah.
Nice. And right now it's different. Right now, women actually do get the same amount of time as guys. And there are some women's wrestlers, I mean, they're incredible. You look at their matches, they're like, wow, these women can go just like the guys can. And it's very entertaining to watch the women's wrestling.
Yeah, very entertaining. I see, Kirill.
Because I was about to ask you, like, do you care about women wrestling, or as long as there's no trans women, you're not gonna you can listen to it?
I mean, there are some women's wrestlers that I watch because they're like very good in the ring. Like there are a lot of Japanese women's wrestlers who are very good in the ring. Like, because wrestling in Japan, women's wrestling, they call it, they have a special term for it. They call it Joshi wrestling. So it's women's wrestling. It's very big in Japan. They have a promotion called Stardom, which is exclusively female promotion for women's wrestlers in Japan. These Japanese wrestlers are very good. Mexican female wrestlers are also very good. And then there are some American wrestlers, of course, women's wrestlers who are very good. You will still have wrestlers, just female wrestlers, just being there because they're pretty and they cannot wrestle like well. But again, the majority of them can go in the ring. Like they can go.
I have a
fully
question
wrestle.
for you since we're talking about this now. Since like I don't know, like now I think like Saudi Arabia has bought shares, and I'm not sure, or like they're involved a lot in the WWE, right?
A lot. They pay,
Yeah.
just to give you the numbers, they signed, I think 2 years ago, they signed a $10 billion deal with the WWE for 5 years. So the Saudis are just throwing immense amount of money at the WWE. It's great. And much more than that. So WWE have pay-per-views. These are like special events, special wrestling events. And there has always been the big four. The big four pay-per-views. It's the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Yep, there have always been this. Well, guess what? Next year, Royal Rumble will be in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and like I haven't, because I haven't watched it. Yeah,
It's
like
different. It's a double meaning on the word royal, basically now.
Yeah.
they're gonna put all the Saudi
The
princes and then
princes,
go give us the money.
And winner takes it all, basically.
I think it's a big pain in the ass. Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia is going to be a very big pain in the ass for the tailors who make gear for female wrestlers, because they will have to make special gear so that all body parts would be covered.
Yeah.
And that's how they compete, by the way. Female wrestlers actually do have matches during the Saudi shows, but of course they wear this all cover gear. They cover all parts of their bodies.
But nobody watches, yeah?
No, people watch. I mean, they can make these motherfuckers know how to make it look sexy. Like when they have a female wrestler with a very nice body, and they make like the entire the gear that covers all the body, but it's latex gear. So go figure. Basically,
all she needs is a whip, high heels, and a bit of a German attitude,
Yeah.
But by the way, I can tell you for a fact, like you can quote me on this. This is like a prediction. I'm like 95% sure about this. I can tell you who will win the Royal Rumble next year in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, let's bet.
Wait. Okay, who? Okay, again, old guy. Last time I watched, WWE, it was like a long time ago, and just right now, recently, as you told me in a freaking message, which I'm pissed off at you. It's like the message is, it's funny to see how the average person is trying to get into modern wrestling. So piss off, Kirill. But who are the participants, or what are the matches?
Well, I mean, they will predetermine the participants. Obviously, the Royal Rumble has 2 Royal Rumble matches. It's like men and women. It's like 30 superstars. You need to throw people over the top rope to eliminate them, and the last person standing wins the match. And there are the stakes, because the person who wins the Royal Rumble gets the world title shot at WrestleMania. So it's like big deal. And I'm telling you this right now. Like, I'm 95% sure that next year in Saudi Arabia, the men's Royal Rumble match will be won by Sami Zayn. I guarantee you, because he's
the Syrian wrestler.
Because he's Syrian, and he's the only popular Arabic wrestler that they have in the WWE. I sent you the clips where he spoke Arabic in front of the crowd. Yeah, and he was super over. Like, did you hear the ovation that he got?
Yeah,
it's
you
crazy.
know what's funny about him? Actually, this like leads maybe to our final kind of segment. Is again, it's going back to something which is how it's an ongoing fictional fantasy or event that's going on. Omar, I don't know if you know like Sami Zayn.
I
So
know.
how
No
he
clue.
started, he
Uh-huh.
started as a meme wrestler, and his
El
name,
Generico.
yes, his
Mm-hmm.
name was El Generico, because
Mm-hmm.
his idea was like it's generic,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's being like pushed. I don't know, like because from what I read and watched, he's being a bit like people are like him. People like him like because he was like a meme, and then he's a jokester.
Just sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Just his real name is Rami Sebey.
Okay. I
Okay.
know I know a couple of Rami Sebains from my family.
Yeah, yeah. Probably a distant cousin for us,
Yeah,
both.
probably. Yeah.
Yeah,
Most
sure.
likely.
You know, and
It's funny how Muslims have cousins everywhere, just like Armenians have created everything in this world.
It's Persians, man. It's Persians.
yeah,
Tell
there's
the
we have
Turks about that.
we, we have we have a Persian guest who, yeah, it's actually a fight between those three nationalities: Turkish, Armenians, and Persians. All three of those actually fight over who created everything in the world. The first penis was created in one of those.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Probably most likely.
like what the hell?
Most likely.
Yeah, like I like how it's like those storylines.
Mm-hmm.
So they stick to the story, like not like they store and they mold them into a culmination of something. This something I really liked in the idea of this, like the it kind of subsets the idea of it's fake,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yep.
Um, I don't know, man. Like his this guy Sam is saying, like I like how his like the trajectory he's going,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. What do you think about this, like this ongoing fictional thing? How do they deal with it? Because this is like freaking insane because you have so many factors. You have audience liking the wrestler, you know. You have like the wrestler, the athleticism of the wrestler. You have the wrestler not getting an injury,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and you have like it has to be one or more storylines.
It's super weird because there are some long-term stories.
Yeah,
Like for example, the Shield story from WWE. I mean, like Dean Ambrose is no longer with the WWE, but Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns are, and the Shield broke up 10 years ago. They still go back to this storyline. They
Mm-hmm.
mention it on television in promos, and
What's the
stuff like that.
shield?
It was a faction. Like it was a
it,
faction
it's
with
Ah.
what
three
what they
people.
were. It was like three people who would they don't enter. They were like directly under Vince McMahon, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Three guys who enter with like the SWAT gear,
Ah.
Yeah.
yeah? And they don't never enter from the main
Ramp
entrance. They
from the
yeah,
ramp. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
from the audience,
Mm.
and
Okay.
they just go in and they beat the shit out of the wrestler who's Vince McMahon points at, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's very interesting to see how they trying to do like to build like long term storytelling, because like the other one is, for example, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, because
yeah,
they had been friends even before WWE, when Sami Zayn was still El Generico, Kevin Owens was Kevin Steen. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So they still they still like took this story from the indies and they put it into WWE, and it's also like lasting for 10 years already, and they come back from time to time to this storyline. uh like I like the attention to the details, in this case. um and there are some successful cases of long-term storytelling, even dating back like 25 years ago. Dude,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I mean, like, when you take a superstar from the 2000s, for example, and you introduce them as, oh, this is a legend, for example, yep, and they would come out, and a lot of fans would not recognize them, because a lot of WWE fans are very young. Stone Cold Steve Austin is still recognized by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Like the guy comes out, you hear that glass shatter, his
yeah,
music, yeah. The crowd goes ballistic. Like
Mm-hmm.
every single time, it doesn't matter young or old, people
yeah,
know who Steve Austin is, right? The other, there are some wrestlers who have a very big longevity. One of my favorite examples is Sting.
Mhm.
Sting has had a very gigantic longevity. The guy retired last year when he was 63 years old. He wrestled his last match when he was 63. This is the guy who wrestled in the 90s. He started wrestling in 1986, and he was popular in every single decade. Like
Yeah.
every single fucking decade. And if you go back, you watch his last matches in AEW, for the past like
Yeah.
3 years, dude, you wouldn't tell that this guy is 60. Like he's a freak. He's a freak. He just
Yeah.
he did dives off the stage. Like they would put him through tables and stuff like that. This is the shit that a 60-year-old man should never do. But he did that,
Yeah.
like he did. And by the way, one very interesting fact, unlike the singer, the wrestler Sting actually owns the trademark for his name.
Nice.
Imagine this shit.
Yeah.
Like the fucking Sting, the singer, does not own rights for his name, but the wrestler does.
I love the thought that the singer, like when he gets royalties, it's not directed to him, it's directed to the wrestler.
To the wrestler.
And then hey man, can you please send me that 3 cents they sent you, please? Like
Yeah.
these are mine. Yeah. One of the stories that I really like, well, if it's of course it's like a known thing. It's, for example, the Undertaker.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, dude. He had one of the also longest longevities in wrestling. And I have to say this, he was one of those people who very rarely broke kayfabe. Like when he had this dead man gimmick, when he would be talking like this,
Mhm.
rest in peace. He very rarely did any interviews whatsoever. So until 20, I think 19, he would practically never do interviews. He did interviews when he had this American badass gimmick.
With the bike and the American flag.
Mhm.
In the bandana. But
Yeah.
when he was dead man, he would very rarely do any interviews whatsoever. But for him, I mean, like he overstayed his welcome. Like the past 6 years, it was so bad. His matches were bad. And you watch the documentaries. There's a very good documentary. It's called The Last Ride, The Undertaker story. You can see that he just wanted to have a very good last match, and he was like a drug addict. Like when he would have a good match, he would be like, I want more. And then the next match would suck,
Mhm.
and then he was like, I need to come back and have a good match before I retire. He turned 60 years old 2 days ago,
Man,
but
I heard his voice and I was like, wait, is that his voice?
that is his voice.
His
Yeah,
real
like
voice?
it's his real voice.
It's not like you will die. No, he's like, hello, how are you?
Yeah. He did this. He cracked his voice on purpose when he was saying. I tried to emulate that. I can't imagine, like, dude, like, how the fuck is his vocal cords are okay?
Mhm.
I have no idea. Yeah, but that was that. Yeah. Well, I mean, Sting had a much better longevity as a wrestler, I think, than the Undertaker. Because Sting, you can watch his match from 3 years ago when he was 60, and you'll be like, this is good. This is good shit. Like not embarrassing at all. And then you watch the Undertaker's match with fucking Goldberg. It was horrible.
Mhm.
It was just fucking horrible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
should we wrap
Yes,
up?
man. So, I think that's
Yeah.
it for us.
Thank you
so
guys
much.
for listening. It's a new
Yeah.
episode, new format, so hopefully you liked it.
New format.
Wrestling show bi-monthly. Why not? I would
By
be
month, sure.
monthly show or monthly show. Yeah, I would be all up for doing that.
I mean, we need guests, so probably, who knows?
Well, actually, there's another guy who we happened to find out by accident that he actually likes wrestling. So maybe next time we'll have him too. And
Yeah.
we'll have a tag match, me
Oh,
and you,
but
Kirill, against Omar and him.
by
Sure.
the way, like one fun fact, there is a wrestling promotion in Moscow. It's called IWF, the Independent Wrestling Federation. I was at 3 shows of this promotion.
I bet that the president, who's like awesome at judo, won all of them.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, he has
Actually, no.
the.
Yeah, actually, no. It looks cringe, to be honest,
Uh-huh.
because it's just like they are trying to replicate the big companies. But
Yeah.
it's been around for 22 years. Like, this is a very old promotion. They started in 2003. So, and I was at 3 of these shows. I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I actually had a lot of fun. Although
Mm.
this is
Okay.
like a very small venue, they
Yeah.
book like small value venues for like 100 people or something like that. But it's cozy. Like I liked it. I
Okay.
really appreciated that. So,
Well, we should have wrapped up, but we always do this in
Yeah, yeah,
our
we all.
episodes. We're about to wrap up, then we open a whole new subject. Do you think it's in Russia? It's well, is there like an idea for wrestling? Will it grow or no?
I mean, they do have they have a TV deal right now. I think they
Hmm.
like some fucking channel that is not very popular, but they do have a TV deal. From time to time, I think like once every 3 months, they book bigger venues for their special shows, and the venue
Uh-huh.
that fits like about 1,500 people or something like that, and they
Hmm.
sell out. Um, there is a space for wrestling in Russia, but I think that the problem is they do not know how to advertise it properly.
You know what? I'm gonna change the question a little bit. Like,
Hmm.
so in the US, from what we were talking about, in the US, they know how to sell a story. Yeah,
Yeah,
they know how to write it. In Japan, they're more brutal.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Hmm.
they're more authentic, let's say, in the punches, in the knees, in the elbowing, or whatever. What about in Russia? What would be Russia's um I don't want to say angle because now angle has two meanings. Like
Hmm.
their way into becoming famous. Like Mexico, luchadores, the guys who fly over
Yeah,
off the
yeah, of
top rope.
course. Yeah. Mhm.
So what would
Hmm.
be Russia's?
I think brutality would be the way to go.
Uh,
I think that they need to be as hardcore as possible because
Uh,
it very nicely corresponds with the idea of Russia on the international market. Yeah, that it's like a brutal, very serious country. So I think that that would be if they had like more hardcore matches, hard hitting matches, that would work. And the other thing, they fucking need to learn how to cut promos in Russian.
mm.
It's like because when I hear them cutting promos, I'm like, this is like I'm having flashbacks when I first performed in Russian for the first time a few years ago. I
Hmm.
sounded completely out of space, like it's just so inauthentic. It's so unnatural the way that they talk. I'm like, they need to they need to use more real life language, and they need to lift the ban on swearings because they don't swear
Mm.
during their
uh,
promos. And this is like one of the problems. It's a long shot, yeah. It's a very distant analogy, but still, one of the problems that I've always had with Soviet movies, for example, is that people never swear there. And I'm like, I don't believe that. I don't believe
uh,
that people talk like that. When some
yeah,
shit happens, I'm going to be swearing all over the place, even if I'm the most polite guy in the room, because this
Hmm.
is natural reaction.
especially
Like,
in
Hmm.
Soviet Union, when someone knocks on your door, you go, "Blad."
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. Fucking
Yeah.
NKVD, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And stuff like that. Yeah, and that's my problem with the Soviet movies, and that's my problem with the promos that the Russian wrestlers cut. It's not
Yeah.
natural. It doesn't sound natural, and it's a shame that for 20 plus years they haven't learned how to do that. It's like a real
Uh,
shame to do that because I mean, even I started sounding more authentic when I do stand up in Russian. For
Hmm.
example,
uh,
these guys cannot cut a promo in Russian to save their life, and that's a very
uh,
big issue.
Also,
this is a very big issue.
if you think about it, technically they can also lean into the thingy of flying, like the luchadores, but instead of flying in the ring, they just fly out of the country and run
I
away,
did that.
basically.
Hey, you know,
Yeah.
I'm a better Russian wrestler than all of those dickheads. You know, I flew
Yeah.
out of the country like 3 years ago. This is a long-term storytelling. You know,
Yeah.
eventually I will come back to Russia when one particular asshole kicks the bucket. You know, like I will be more than happy to come back to
Oh.
Russia. So,
Jirinovsky will never die, so it's fine.
well, I mean, yeah, he's for. They need to put him right next to Lenin at mausoleum. You know, like that would be the perfect place for him.
Especially that they're like the dick part, you know.
Yeah.
This is the guy who's the dick that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Kirill, thank you so much, man, for all of
Exactly.
this
Thank you guys
talk.
for having
Yeah.
me. Yep, it's always
Anytime,
fun. It's always
anytime,
fun.
my man.
Like always, everything is in the description. Like, subscribe, follow Kirill. Bye.
Yeah, for all the wrestling news. Anyway, see you guys later and see you next episode. Ciao.
Bye bye.